So hi guys, welcome to stage 9 of the F-14. So as you're going to find out next week, I've got in a right muddle with the F-14. I'd made a few videos in advance and it kind of didn't go as planned. This is my first scale model back since I was a kid, really. This isn't a beginner kit, it's not a right advanced kit. But one of the things that I've done wrong is I've gone in and I've done things all in the wrong order. I possibly could have, that could be my fault for not planning it properly. But long story short, I lost my mojo on it a little bit. I've been working on a different project, the next project, which I will be introducing next week. So from this point on, the F-14 is going to go fortnightly. I won't go too much detail because I did make a video and it's going to come out next week and it'll just go in a bit more detail. So what's going to happen is the F-14 is going to go fortnightly and a new project will start next week which will also run fortnightly. And then once the F-14 is done, we'll go back to doing weekly videos on each build. And hopefully that will just enable me to just pick up on this F-14. So what I'm going to do on this video, I'm kind of going to go back. I'm going to do all the little things that I should have done. I'm going to correct some errors. Essentially I'm going to work on 4 areas. I'm going to, first of all, I want to weigh down the nose. As you may remember in a previous video, I think it's not going to be a tail sitter, but it's very, very close. So I'm just going to put a little bit of weight in the nose, and that will obviously help keep it down. The wings I've not done properly. I've done the white, but I should have brought the white up a little bit further. And in all fairness, I went by the rule of you lay down a darker colour on top of a lighter colour. I actually think it would have been easier the other way round. So I'm going to be doing the grey on the top of the wing. And then next week, once it's had time to dry, I'm going to do the white. And then I'll do the bottom white as well. I'm going to fix the... I'll show you once I've done the opening credits. But the wavy part where the grey meets the white, I'm having a lot of problems with that. I'm really not happy with how that's come out. And I'm going to fix that over 2 or 3 videos. One of the things that I found is that obviously once you lay some paint down, you put masking tape straight on it, you really need to allow it to cure. So I can't really mask it off until it's cured for quite a while. And then so that we're actually building something in this video, I'm going to work on the cockpit. So let's go for it. Okay, so the first area that I'm going to work on, we'll get it over and done with, and I'm going to weigh down the nose. Now I could get away perhaps with putting some kind of putty such as plasticine, so I had to check my camera then, make sure my mic was on. So I could get away maybe with plasticine or blue tack. What I'm actually going to do, I've never used it before, it's this stuff called liquid gravity. And it's very, very heavy. This actually weighs 1/4 kilo. I've had a look at the nose. Now there's 2 issues. One is that there's a hole in the end of the nose, as you can see there. I just did pop a little bit in as a dry run and a few bits came out. The next issue is we've got some holes there, so I don't want to come up too far. And I think if I just do this bit, if I should actually have done this nose before I glued it on, but I've glued it on now, so we've got to deal with it. Now, I have had a look. I will, once I do these parts properly, I'll go through them in more detail. But what's going to happen at some point, this part is going to go over here, like so. and the cockpit is going to be painted all along there, and that's going to go in there. So now I can see what I'm dealing with. I could theoretically come all the way up to there on the nose. So I think if I come up to there, that will be fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop in just a tiny bit of blue tack into the nose, like so, and I'll try and push that down as much as I can. And what that's hopefully going to do is just block that hole up there, so that when I pour some liquid gravity in, it won't all fall out the end. And then what I'm going to do is we'll put some liquid gravity in there, and I'll put some super glue in to seal it all in, and then we'll just let that sit, possibly overnight. And then I need to sit it in this position, and it's probably going to have to sit there overnight, but I think what I might actually do before I do that actually is I want to do this. Now this part I am extremely unhappy with. It's hard to see by flipping it, but if you see the pattern there and then you see the pattern there, apart from the fact it all went wrong, it doesn't match. But what I have managed to do, and you may laugh, and if you laugh that's okay, one of the techniques that I've seen, which I think is absolutely fantastic, is when you get the instructions, you work out the scale of the instructions to the actual model. You can then photocopy this scaled up or down, and then you can cut this out and use them as masks. Now, I have had this printer of mine for a very long time, and I have never been able to figure out how to scale up or down other than using the presets. So I can, for example, I can enlarge from B5 to A3 or something like that, but I've only recently found out how to do it as a percentage. So like I say, don't laugh, it's there's some areas I'm good at and some areas I'm not, but I've finally managed to find the percentage. So I've managed to photocopy these, and I've done some rough calculations. This is my first attempt at it, and I've photocopied this at 200%, and I think it's about right. So I need to cut these down to fit, but I think that's about, looking at the end of the nose and looking at the end of the air intake, I would say that's about right. So I'm happy with those. And then so what the plan is this week I'm just going to cover up this bit here, and I'm just going to go over it with a black primer, and then once that black primer is dry, we'll bring that grey down too far, and we'll do it all along there. We'll do the same, we'll bring the grey all the way down too far, and then in a future video we'll then mask it off, and then we'll do the white, and we'll bring the white up to where it should be. Now, on the one hand, I think it's going to be easier to do, obviously what you want to do is you want to do the white and then do the grey over the top, dark colour over a light colour, but I actually think it's masking wise, I think it might be easier. Do you know, I think I might get away with it. So if I bring, yeah, so I think yes, so change that plan, we'll go over it in black, we'll bring, because no, I am going to do the grey first. The reason being is I want to do the grey over a black primer. So if I do the white first, I've then got to mask the white, then I've got to do more black primer, then grey, and I think it's just going to be too many layers to, you know, you've got to get it right. So I'll bring the grey down too much, and then we'll go over it with a white primer followed by another layer of the Tamiya white. We'll fix things like this, which I think has got to be a white, but that's masking tape. So that's a job to do. Then we will, when we're doing the grey, we'll do these tops of these wings, and I don't have to worry too much about getting the edge because there'll be a little silver band along the end. So if I get a bit of overspray or underspray, that's not going to be too bad. But obviously the most important thing is we want to try and get at least its close colour match to what we've done. And then lastly, what we'll do, so that we're building something, I'll work on, what stages are we up to? There we go. So I'll do stage 37. I still haven't decided whether, I don't think I'm going to do the pilots. I think I'm going to have this as a sitting on the ground aircraft. So we'll do 37 and 38. And then in the next video we'll finish off the side of this. And then we'll go through the instructions, we'll look at all the little bits that I've missed out. For example, I know that I haven't done on the wheels. There we go, some bits on the front there. There we go, this bit there, that needs to be painted and coloured. So, very long intro, I do apologise. No, I've just done the intro. Gosh, I've forgotten the intro. Right, let me stop and catch up where I'm up to. Okay, so I think that demonstrates perfectly where my mind is at the moment. I can't even remember if I've done the intro. So, I've checked, the intro's been done. We are doing the main video. Let's go for it. Right, so step one, I'm going to cover up all of this. Where the grey meets the white. I'm going to go over it with black. And then we're going to let that set, let that dry. Then we'll go over, basically we're going to be black basing it. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring it down to about there with the black. And then we'll do all of that grey as though I'm going to line it there. And then all the way to the end there. Same on the other side. Then that will be it for this week in terms of that. Then we can work on filling the nose, and then we'll do the ejector seats, and we'll do the wings. Well, actually, I'll do the wings when I do the grey there. So let's crack on with. Make sure lovely, that's working fine. So we'll crack on with it with some black primer. So because I'm only doing a little bit on the airbrush, I'll just cheat a little bit, and I'll use the kitchen roll if I can, and black primer, and we use my normal black primer that I like to use, and this should be nice and simple. Okay, so that's airbrush cleaned out, a little bit of white, and then we'll just add the little bit of white colour variation, and then next step will be the grey. So okay, so AK11866 light girl grey FS16440. Little bit of that into the airbrush. That seems blocked up. Why is that blocked up? Okay, that's interesting. Okay. Never had that happen to me before. A little bit of paint dried up in the top there. Okay. Right. I probably put way too much paint in there. But, so get it nice and thin. Where's my yellow brush? I think that's okay actually. Beautiful. Right, so we'll start matching that colour up, and we'll do it in lots and lots of small thin paint coats, and we'll see how we get on. Okay, so I seem to have had a few problems with my airbrush. It was a bit spluttery, and I thought maybe it was a bit too thick, so I thinned it, and then it came out too thin. So you saw me putting paint in and putting the thinners in, but in the end I have got a fairly good colour match, so I'm happy enough with that. I've got some nice little colour modulation going on in there. By the time I weather it, it'll look really nice. And maybe this went on a bit thick. Maybe it needs a little bit of evening out, but I think that's okay. So we'll let this cure for at least an overnight, and then we'll be ready to put the white on. I'll cut the masks out and we'll pop that on. Maybe a little dark there, but that's not too bad. So what I want to do next then is I want to get some liquid gravity in there, and I'm just going to fill it up just so it's got a little bit of weight. Okay, so I'll put just a little bit of weight, and then I'll pop some super glue in there, and then what I'll do is I'll keep it propped up like that, and then but we must make sure that it is fully covered, because obviously if that liquid gravity isn't glued in, then it could slosh about and you'll end up with a rattly model. The problem I have is that I can't actually see it, so I might just actually put a little bit of super glue in, maybe just fill it to about there, put some super glue in, leave it overnight, and then tomorrow I'll just maybe put another layer of super glue in. So I've got this little rack, and I think I'll try and make use of it as best I can. So I'll have a little bit of an adjustment on this. Right, so let's pop some liquid gravity in. So we've got our bit of tack in there, and then what I'll do is I'll get the glue ready so that once that's in, we can just go straight in then. So we'll get that opened up, put the nozzle on. Got these single-use glues, they're really handy. Right, so pop a little bit of that in. I can see there's a little bit falling out of the, I don't know, is it falling out of the nose? No, that's good, that's good. Right, so oops, that was me missing. Why it's a good idea to use this on a piece of paper. Do you know, I think I might just take the top off. It's a good idea having a nozzle, but right, so I've got that up to a level where I can almost see it. It's probably way more than I need in there. There we are. So I don't know if you can see it, it's just poking out, but I've got it to a level that I can see, then hopefully then I can see all the glue. I'll just pour this super glue in, and that glue will hopefully run down, and this is all in an area of the nose that won't be seen. Chuck some baking powder in there as well, and try and get it all in. Yeah, chuck the whole lot in. That actually seems to have set it well. So I don't know how much I've used, probably about a fifth, so it's probably about 50 grams in there. And then what I'll do is I'll leave that propped up like that. And I'll leave that overnight. I'll leave it on a piece of plastic, so if any of the glue does run down, it won't stick to my table. Right, so let's go on with, I don't know why I'm trying to put that on there. Right, let's get on with a little bit of actually making something then. Okay, so I've made one ejector seat. The reason I've made one is that there's two seats, they're both exactly the same, so it kind of gives me a little bit of a practice. Now, I'm rather happy with that. It's a little bit bright, I find, but we are going to add some weathering and that will dull that down. Having said that, once you do a dry fit into the actual model, it does kind of dull it down a little bit, and it kind of goes a little bit better, but it'll still get weathered. It also enabled me to discover that it's not difficult if you follow exactly as the instructions say, but I found it, I'm kind of looking at it and thinking, well, if I'd have done it this way, it would have been a little bit easier. For example, some of these parts that I've painted, the order that I've done them, I don't think it was really that good, but it's yeah, we'll do this one a little bit easier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of gluing to start with. We'll glue this together, and then that can stay like that, and then we'll glue the backrest on, because I've found that, let's get the right bit. This is actually quite easy to deal with as one bigger piece, so that's not a problem. Then the hardest bit to paint once it's glued will be this tan piece there in the middle. So what we'll do is we'll paint all of the green, because we really need to paint this tan bit on top of the green. So we'll do all the green first, then we'll do the tan, and then that will obviously give us a first layer that will work quite well with that yellow, and then we'll just put it together. So yeah, let's crack on with it then. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to paint with a brush. Now I could go over these with an airbrush, but really I'm not painting that much, so I don't think it's really worth getting the airbrush out for it. So I'm just going to paint the whole lot by hand. So the first colour I'm going to use is calling for XF5. Now XF5 is I've lost it, green, olive green, but I'm replacing that with AK11147 olive green. It's an equivalent rather than the actual colour. Obviously if you're using Tamiya paints, you will go with the actual colour that it asks for. Okay, so now the green is dry, I want to put the tan on the top. So I'm going to be using, so it's buff. The colour it's asking for is XF57, which is buff. Again, I'm using the equivalent AK11031 buff. And this is the first part where we need to paint quite carefully. Although the ejector seat handles don't need to be done so carefully, because I'm going to be going over them in yellow. So it might actually be a bit of an advantage to do them in buff. Simply because we're going to be painting over yellow, and the yellow will go over the buff a lot easier than, say, for example, a black. So yeah. Okay, so next up it's asking us for the yellow. We need to do these ejector seat pulls, yellow and black. So we'll do the first coat in yellow, and then we'll add black onto the top. So it's asking us for XF3, which is flat yellow. I'm using the equivalent of AK11047, which is lemon yellow. And what I've done on the bigger one, the one that's going to go on the top, the middle bit is meant to be buff. So obviously this one I can just slap it all over. Doesn't matter if I go over, because this bottom piece is going to be black. So that'll cover up any overpaint. But this one, the middle, does need to be buff. So we need to go just a little bit careful, just at the point where it meets the buff. So okay, really happy with that. It's actually gone on quite nicely in one coat. Because the buff has acted as a first layer, it means we can do one less. So this, I just had real trouble getting it stick onto the kebab stick. So this one's gone okay. So we'll do is we'll wait for that to dry, and we'll just get on with the black parts. Okay, next up is the black parts, which is going to be done in X18. This is the colour call out, because it's a semi-gloss black. I've already owning it, so I've just gone in and I've used this. Once I run out of this Tamiya, I will replace it with an AK equivalent, but I don't see the point in buying paint and then throwing away paint that you've already got. So last time I did this, it took 2 coats. See what happens this time. It's just the first layer is just scrubbed on. Okay, so we've got some bits painted. It's time to do some gluing. So you'll find that I'm using Tamiya cement ordinary mostly. This is because I can just pop a little bit of glue down. It just gives me a little bit more working time. If I actually place the parts in and then ran extra thin in, it would run the risk of stripping the paint that I've already painted. And as you can see, there's some difficult to reach bits if I have to touch that up, so I want to try to avoid touch-ups as much as I can. So we'll put the seat cushion in, we'll put the back in, and then we'll put the 2 ejector seat handles in. One other thing I forgot to mention, there's some ejector pin marks on the inside, the part that isn't going to be shown. What I've done is when I've painted that, I deliberately didn't get right in that ejector pin mark. That then just gives me a little marker just so that at a glance I can see what's the front and what's the back. So that's the side that's going to be on the outside, and that bit's going to be on the inside. So it just makes it a little bit easier for me to deal with. Okay, now that's glued up, there is a little bit of paint come off. I knew that would happen. It happened when I did the first one, which is why I only gave it one coat of black. So I'll go over it with the black again. There's a little bit of touch up needing on the buff. I just caught a little bit there at the back of the seat, so I'll just I'll touch that up as well. But what I'll do is I'll do the X18, but I'm just going to thin it slightly. It doesn't need a really heavy coat, and then we'll just get that touched up. Okay, the next step, we want to do the stripes on the ejector seat handles. Now what I've done is I've got a cocktail stick. As you can see, I've cut it down really thin. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some XF1, which is flat black. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some paint on my palette. Nice big dollop. And I'm just going to spread it out a little bit so it's not so thick. And you can't see that too well. But there it is. So I've just put some paint on. I've just spread, rather than having a big dollop, I've just spread it out so it's not so thick. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my cocktail stick. I'm going to dip the end in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to place the cocktail stick all around. It doesn't seem to want to do it now. This went absolutely lovely on the last one, and I'm just going to touch in a few places just to give the impression that it's striped. And by using a cocktail stick, it gives me a lot more control. If you're clever, you could possibly use a piece of cotton, and then I'm going to go around the sides just to meet up with those black bits. We're basically using a cocktail stick as a paintbrush, and then on the bottom just basically bringing that line around. It's not going to be seen so much underneath. And there we go. We've got a fairly decent striping going on there, and then the same again with the one on the bottom. And you can do this as good or as bad as you want. I could sit there measuring how many we want, but I'm just happy with just a basic effect. Okay, so once that's dry, we have, oh, one other thing, yes. So I went a little bit extra on this. The next instruction tells us that we want XF58, which is olive green. Now, using AK11158 reflective green, what it's asking us to do is, you've got some little, you can't really see them, but there's three little lines and coming up, we just want to paint over there. What I actually did, I went a little bit artistic license, and I did a lot of the raised detail. It hasn't really shown that well, but I think it just adds just a little tiny bit of extra pop, not a lot, not enough to jump out at you, but I think it's just enough there to make it a little bit more interesting. So let's say the instructions does actually say just to paint those, there's 3 bits there and 1 going up, but as I say, I've just taken that up a little bit further, had a little bit of fun with it, and I'm happy with the result. So AK11147, sorry, wrong one. Let me just double check. XF58 olive green reflect. So it's this one, 11158 reflective green. There isn't really a massive amount of difference, to be honest with you. When you paint over black, the difference is even less noticeable. So all I'm going to do is a little bit of paint and get that blue tack off. I don't know if it's the weather conditions or how much I've been using it, but that blue tack is extremely soft. So what we're going to do is put some green on the brush, and then we just paint a little bit on our palette just to remove some of the paint, and then just mainly using the edge of our, I'm going to have to take my glasses off, using the edge of the brush, we're just going to go over that raised detail. Might need a second coat if you want. So that's what the instructions has called for, but I'm actually taking that up further, and I'm going to do all of the little raised lines, not the big squares and the triangles, just the raised lines, and I think that just adds just a tiny bit extra. Whoops, a bit too much there, but there's one coming up here, there's one up here, and then so use the edge of your brush, and it's a lot easier to hit the target then. Okay. Just a little bit of extra detail there. You tell me if you think that's better or if I've gone overboard. But at the end of the day, it's really a case of if you're happy with it. You know, I went a little bit extra, and I thought if I don't like it, I can always just go over it black and cover it up. And when I'd done it, I thought, well, you know what, I do actually quite like it. Just subtle detail. It's probably not even going to see most of this, but you know it's there. I've just seen a bit of the sea that I missed. There we go. Might be able to get a similar effect with dry brushing, but okay, so I've just seen a little bit I've missed, so I'm just going to touch that up just on the back of the seat there. There we go. Right, and we've got one last thing to do, which is a few decals, but I can see that that black hasn't fully cured yet, so I'm going to go and make a cup of tea, cup of coffee, whatever you fancy. And I'm going to apply those decals, and I will warn you guys, those decals are extremely small. Let me put my glass on so I can see what I'm showing you. So, right, so there's 2 decals there. There's one there, and there's this one. And then on the other side you've got another one there, and I think that really does add an awful lot. I suppose you could paint that on, but you can actually, if you look really closely, you can't see it on the camera, but if you look really closely you can actually read the words. So this is a warning. The only thing I've found with this is that when I put the decal on, the decal's a little bit bigger than the area, so the area that sticks so it does actually stick up. So you really do need a decal solution just to make that conform. Anyway, I'm going to go and make myself a drink, maybe have some biscuits, and then once that's fully dry, we could put that decal on. Okay, so it's just a little bit off camera, but I've just got my decals in water. Now there's a big debate over using warm water, cold water, etc, etc. There is a chappie, Will Patterson, he doesn't believe that you need warm water. I use cold. He believes that while there is a little bit easier if you use cold warm water, it doesn't have a significant effect, and it certainly doesn't eliminate the need to apply solutions. So the main thing I've got is my decals in soak. I use microsat to apply the decal to the surface, and then I'll go over with microsol anything up to 6 layers I find with Tamiya decals. That will help it conform. Knife are very small, but careful how you use the knife. Cocktail stick and a cotton bud, and most importantly a good set of tweezers. And now when I say a good set of tweezers, what I mean is a pair of tweezers you can work well with. Now when you cut the decal, cut as much backing paper as you can so that you can hold a piece of the backing paper without touching the decal. I just need to make this upside down. So what I'm going to do, this is the smallest and fiddliest one. So what I want to do is just start that moving, get it close to the edge. You see it's just hanging off a little bit. And then what I'm going to do, a little bit of microset, and we just go over the target area. This is the part of the solutions that's going to go underneath the decal. It's a bit of a balance. If you put too much, the decal is going to float on top. If you don't put enough on, it's going to set too quick. So we just get that decal onto there, then using a positioning equipment of your choice, position that how you want it. And this is, I think this is the trickiest one, because that decal is a little bit bigger than the target. And what we'll do is we'll dab it in the middle with the cocktail stick, and it's a lot easier to show you with a large decal, but what you want to do is roll it so any air gets pushed out from the middle onto the end, and that's actually gone on okay. So there's a little bit loose on the corner there, that's not a problem. Right, so we want that just to dry off slightly. So what I'll do now is I will apply the next decal and apply this in the same way. Brush a little bit of microset onto the target area. It is trickier to show you with these smaller decals, I'm afraid. I will be doing a hints, tips and cheats video on decals, but not using these as an example. These are terrible ones to show you for the first time. You need to get one end on, and then I can get that held down with a cocktail stick, and then I can just position it how I want it. There we go, that's actually gone on quite nicely. And I'll dab that with a cocktail stick. I want it to dry in place. Make sure there's no air bubbles. And then I'll apply the other side. And this time I'll actually remember to put the microset on before. Otherwise I'm kind of messing around with the decal with lots of other things in my hand. So, right, that's actually been soaking a little bit too long. It's fallen off the paper, so that's got itself stuck to the back of the backing paper. So I want to keep that as wet as I can. So I've had to take this off, which is normally a bad thing to do, because if it curls over it ends up sticking to the decals, but because it's small I've got away with it. But it's just that it actually come off the backing paper as I pulled it out of the water, and it was actually sticking to the back of the paper, which is not the smooth side. So that's going to cause me a few problems because there's a bit too much solution in there. So I'll just remove some. If I find it's not moving, I can always apply a little bit more microset. I think I've got that in okay. Let's do a comparison with the other one. The first one, this is the advantage of making one at a time. Alright, they're roughly the same. And they're roughly the same. Right, so we'll get the just roll that with the cotton. Not enough to move it, but enough to remove any excess water. So brilliant, that's in place. So fortunately the only brush I use for my microsol is massive, but it's going to work okay. So we get a little bit of microsol and we'll just brush that over the top, and we go into panic mode now, because what happens, this microsol makes the decal go all wrinkly, and you panic because you think you've ruined the decal. But just leave it, do not touch it, do not be tempted to move it. And what will happen is it will all fall into place, and it will start to conform, and it might take a few minutes and you might find yourself needing more layers, but what you will end up with is this. This one I actually only applied 2 layers. You can still see the outline of the decal slightly. The more layers you apply, the more that edging will go. I'm trying to find you something that I've already put decals onto. I can't get to it. There we go. So these were applied in exactly the same way, and you can see that it's really conformed to the panel lines, and you can't see the edging of the decal, only ever so slightly. Now by the time I put an extra layer of gloss on there, that will all disappear. But this is a little bit of a different position because it looks okay from the size of it and where it is. So I'm happy enough with that. And as you can see, it's actually started to. It's either not. See, that's going to need a little bit more. It's just on the edge there. It's not conforming. So we'll apply an extra layer, and we'll just let that. It won't. I find this quite strange, guys, because when you put the decal on, if you apply extra water or extra microset, it just kind of goes into free fall, and it just kind of goes in its own position. Yet when you apply microsol, it doesn't. There we go. I just took a little bit of the excess out. So yeah, so I'm going to call that done, guys, because I'm really happy with that. So yeah, let's switch to our conclusion video, and I think I'll end the video there. I think I was hoping to do a little bit more. I wanted to get this next stage done and then actually get these all into the cockpit, but do you know what, I'm really happy with the progress I've made. I'm getting my excitement. I've got my excitement back for this model. You know, I've got through some bits that sort of tripped me up. That's all my fault. It's not the kit's fault. But obviously, when you hit some tricky bits, you know, you run the risk of losing. Actually, what we'll do some weathering on that now. So I'm going to take my grey and blue camouflage from AK Interactive. I am looking at doing oils, and I think, do you know what, I think oils would be a better idea. Right, okay guys, I'm going to stop the video. get some more bits prepared, and I think we'll do it with oils. Okay guys, so what I've got here, just a very simple oil wash. I've got some burnt umber oil paints, and I'm just going to add a little bit of white spirit, which I've decanted into a bottle. The reason I've decanted it is it just gives me a bit more control. And then what we're going to do is just mix that together. And I thought I hadn't put enough white spirit in, but it looks like, yeah, I have actually. Haven't. So be careful guys, this guy, I don't think this stuff is dangerous, but it does stink. So there we go. So it's very potent stuff, this oil paint. And it's better to put too much white spirit in and have to do another layer than it is to put too much in. And the beauty of this is if you don't like it, you're not happy with the results, just go over with dampened cotton bud with a bit of white spirit on, just wipe it away. Right, so I'm happy with that. So I like to use a different brush for oils, just to keep some brushes separate. So let's see if I can find the brush. So I use these, which were recommended to me by Rosemary & Co, and these are red spotter red dot, and they're quite stiff. I think they're quite handy. So all I'm going to do, get a little bit of my mix, and we'll just try and find somewhere in the back. There we go. We'll just dip a little bit on there. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Done a little bit that's not going to be seen so well, just to so if I did do it wrong, it's easier to hide. We're just going to run a little bit of that diluted mix. You can see how it runs into the lines. That's brilliant. I'm really happy with that. It's just showing all that detail up. So, and it's also drabbed it all down a bit, so let's spot the detail, spot the difference. I will run over this with the cotton bud, just to remove some of the excess. So excuse me, where's that gone? I've actually lost my white spirit. I put it down somewhere and now I can't find it. Is this it? Yes, that's it. Right, so the way I'm going to do it is I put a little bit of the white spirit on a kitchen roll. I'm just going to roll the cotton bud just to dampen it a little bit, and then just gently, we don't want to get that cotton bud into the detail and take it all away. Just give it a light wipe, and we just keep going until we're happy with what we've got left. Okay. And then we get a clean side. Obviously once your cotton bud's got dirty, there's only so far you can clean it. There you go. I just think that gives it a bit more of a used and a bit of a pop look. See, it's not so bright. And then once we pop it into, let me just move my camera up. Oops. Why is that not going in? Why are you not fitting? I think I had a bit of a problem when I was gluing the seats together. There we go. You know, I think that fits a little bit better. You know, you're having a mucky aircraft and these bright, lovely, new looking seats. I think that just fits in there a bit. It just blends a little bit more, Right, I'm going to have to examine this. There we go, that's gone in fine. So I'll probably pop a little bit on the top as well, just to dull that seat down a bit. Just take a bit of the brightness off, really. There we go. Okay, and I'll get on with the other side, the other seat even. It's just running lovely into those lines. When you have some, in fact, actually this has turned out a bit better. Where the oil paint is sat in the pot, it's just slightly separated. So maybe I should have just added a bit more white spirit. There we go. Now the only trouble with oil paints is that they don't dry quickly. You do need to leave these, with it being as thin as it is, probably at least 24 hours. There you go, guys, and I think we've got a massive amount of result there for not really an awful lot of effort. So tell me what you think, guys. Have I gone overboard? Have I spoilt it? Or do you think it's really added some nice detail? You've got two options there if you think that's a bit too dark. One is that we can wipe some of it away. We can just keep wiping it away until a lot more of it's disappeared. What you could also think about is once that's dry, maybe just pop a little tiny bit of a dry brush over the top. I think that's a lot better, actually. I think that's turned out better than the first one. You've still got a lot of the original colour. Let's tone this one down. And what you can also do is perhaps pop some blacks in and just add. There we go. Yeah, I think maybe I went a little bit overboard there, and now that it's toned down a little bit. So you could perhaps add a little bit more focus in the middle, you know, where the pilot or Rio's been sitting for a while, and obviously he's worn some of that seat down a little bit in an uneven manner. But that, I'm going with that, and I'm really happy with that. It's really made that detail pop. I really perhaps should have just taken a photo when I'd finished one and then done a comparison, but that's fine. We'll just pop a little bit on there just to even them up a bit. And that's basically all the panel washes. These ones that you buy for about £5 a pop, you know, they're really well mixed, and you know, they've got good ingredients in them. But I bought these paints, 24 of them, for about 15 quid, 10 quid, and the amount that I've used, hardly any. These will last me for years and years and years. And the most expensive bit is probably just the white spirit, which cost me £1 from the local pound store. But like you see, I've made way too much there, and yet I hardly used any. Right, guys, so front camera, there we go. So right, yes, happy. Mojo looks like it's been reinstated. I've got on with a little bit, and I'm happy with the result. So to recap, oh, do you know, it's made a difference. Now, I spoke to some of my friends who have built this many times, and they've said to me, their actual response was, don't weigh the nose cone down, it doesn't need it, really doesn't need it. I don't think it's done any harm because of where the wheels, because the wheels are actually further than halfway back, so that actually adds a lot of weight to the front. It pushes the centre of gravity more to the front. But the weighing of the nose cone really is just for belt and braces. When I was waiting for that to dry off camera, it just seemed a little bit slushy and it wasn't sticking. So I did shoot another little tube of super glue in. I didn't do it on camera because you've seen me put one tube of super glue in, you've seen me put two in. It didn't make any difference. So that is just belt and braces. We've brought the grey down, and you know, I'm really happy with it, but obviously we now need to bring the white up, which I'm going to do in the next episode. What else did we do? I've done the wings. I'm happy with the wings because obviously if we paint the wings and the body at the same time, there would be a definite colour match. It's not 100%. It definitely isn't 100%. But I think if you put a percentage rating on it, I think it's in the 90s, isn't it? It's not a far off match. So what we need to do probably in the next episode is we want to do the underside, this bit white, and then what we want to do is bring these white flaps in. There's a little wavy line which is where the actual border mark is between the two. So we'll do some masking. Don't want to do any masking now because that paint is less than 24 hours old. So I'm fearful that if I put the masking tape on, I'll paint it and then I'll pull it all up and it'll pull all the paint. But what I've done, which I think has been really productive, is these ejector seats. And I'm really happy with them. And there you go. Like, if you want to see how small they are, you know, about the size of my eyeball. With regards to the seat belts, the seats, sorry, 7 pieces to make one seat belt. And it seems a little bit overboard when you look at the instructions, but the way they've engineered it, if you're hand painting, it's absolutely perfect that it's in 7 pieces because it makes them so much easier to paint. If you do exactly as the instructions, it's doable, but I think it's a little bit easier the way I did it. You know, you put down the buff first, then you put the green over the top. When I did it the first time, I put the green on, then put the buff on the top. I made it into about 2 or 3 sub-assemblies and then found myself having a bit of trouble getting the paint in. So yeah, glue the 2 halves of the sides and then do the seat back and then the bit that goes on the seat, so you've got 5 sub-assemblies. Get most of the ejector handles done, then start gluing them and then touch the black up. And because black, you want to always try to paint dark over light because you're leaving the black last. You can't get much darker than black, can you? So what I'm going to do in the next episode is I'm going to try and finish off these glare shields. We'll get the glare shields and the seats glued in. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to stage 1. I'm going to check out, I've done everything as per each stage, and then we'll get everything caught up. And then I think the actual building will be almost finished. Obviously we'll get the white done as well. As I say, I think it's almost there. It's almost fully built, and then we can focus on the getting the paint, make sure the paint's alright, get the missiles done. The decals are going to be a nightmare. I can absolutely assure you of that. This is one sheet of decals, and you can see, look, the piece that I've cut out, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, that's 6 decals there, so it gives you an idea of the total number. Won't be using all of them. This section here is for the Phoenix, these are for the sidewinders, and then you've got the Sparrow. These are all the nose steps and things like that, and walkways. And then we do have another separate decal sheet somewhere not within reach. So I may have to do the decals in 2, maybe 4 videos. I might do the top and then do the bottom and then do the sides. Obviously one of the decal videos, I really want to go through how I'm applying decals, show the microset, microsole. I'm looking at some other alternative decal solutions. A lot of people are recommending Ultimate products to me. I've never used Ultimate products, but a lot of people are saying, yeah, I used to use microset, microsole. The problem with microset, microsole is that it's the same strength. I've also got, and I've never used this, Humbrol decal fix, and it's apparently decal fix is stronger, and if you've not used a particular set of decals before, you could go in maybe with decal fix and you could ruin them. Whereas Ultimate products, they do three. They do a normal strong and an extra strong, or a weak medium. There's three strengths. And I had a word with the guy and I said, look, what happens if I go in too strong? And he says, you'll wreck the decals, which is the answer I was expecting. And I said, well, what happens if I go in too weak? He said, if you go in with a too weak a solution, you just have to apply more layers, exactly like you do with microsole. And what you'll find is over time, experience will tell you these decals are made by such and such a brand, or I need to go in with a strong, medium, weak, whatever. So I already know that with the decals that Tamiya make, I can do with a stronger solution than microsole, which I will demonstrate when I come to do the decals. Right guys, so I have rabbited on for way too long. Really happy that I managed to get myself back on a track. You know, I don't think I should really be doing, obviously I like to try and make my videos for my scale models an hour or less, but I think that, what's this, video 9, so we're going to be probably doing at least 12 videos in total minimum, and I think that's probably pushing it too much. But you know, it takes as long as it takes. You know, I'm not going to rush things. I want to show you absolutely everything that I've done on camera, the boring bits and the fun bits. Yeah. So guys, so I will see you next week when we will. So I'll see you in 2 weeks. So yes, last week we had the intro to the Mosquito, and I apologise if you live in Canada, you won't be able to see it. I did a bit of a naughty thing. I used a clip which I just thought was brilliant. Unfortunately, it's copyright in Canada. I can still publish the video, but it can't. I'll get no monetization from it, not like I can at the moment anyway. And also, it's not viewable in Canada. So I apologise. One of the great things about YouTube is that if they do give you a strike, not a strike, so if they tell you it's copyright, it tells you the countries it's affected, and then it tells you your stats for that country. And apparently I have no viewers in Canada, or no subscribers in Canada. So that actually is a very good reason why you should like, share, subscribe to my channel. Subscribe. If you do not subscribe to my videos but you watch them every week, you do not get included in my demographics. So obviously it said to me this won't be viewable in Canada. I had a look at my demographics. I have no Canadian subscribers, so I've decided yeah, okay, fine, I'll go ahead. Now it may well be that half of the people watch my videos could be Canadian and none of them have subscribed, so let's say they're all going to get blocked out, but if they subscribed I'd be able to use those figures. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, I really would appreciate it. And I'm pushing towards 1,000 subscribers, and I've got exciting things to announce when I get to 1,000 subscribers. I'm going to be dipping my hand in my pocket and giving things away. I know some people class that as buying subscribers. I class it as thanking people who have kept me going. So next week is the first stage of the Mosquito, which I am so excited for, because obviously I've already made the video and I know how it went, and it's amazing. And then in 2 weeks time we'll go back to this video where I will be just plodding along. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna make any plans on this. We're just plodding along. So take care guys, and I'll see you in another video.